What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football auction mock draft for you, this time on Yahoo. This will be a 12-team half-point PPR mock, so should be interesting. And as always, you can see we've got the setup all ready to go. While we wait, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, let us hear it in the comment section. And any and all auction draft questions, this is the place to ask them, so don't be shy. We will answer them all. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. And while you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value. Details in the description. But with that being said, let's get into this auction fantasy football mock draft because we've already had our first nomination, a bit of a surprising one. The Tampa Bay Bucks defense, not usually how we start things off here. And look, for what it's worth, I want to mention this right away because we've already done one auction mock draft here on the channel. This is technically going to be our second one. And as far as strategies are concerned, we're going to be utilizing an aggressive strategy. The way I like to explain this is basically landing 2 top 5 fantasy players, aka if this is a snake draft, basically having 2 first-round picks. And the way I personally like to do it is going at the running back position. So think about landing guys like a Dalvin Cook and an Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook or Alvin Kamara, something like that. So that's the approach we're going to have today because, look, let's be honest. If we could, we'd all ideally like to have 2 of these studs, and the auction draft allows it. But it's a strategy that has its downside as well, and we want to go into the pros, the cons of all of these strategies and give you our best take on how to succeed utilizing them all. Now, right now, as you can see, Christian McCaffrey went for $75, a little bit too expensive for me. We can still get guys like a Dalvin Cook, a Zeke, and Alvin Kamara and utilize this aforementioned aggressive strategy. Saquon Barkley now nominated for around $66. I will say that with Barkley, I'm a little bit more hesitant to pull the trigger just because of his week 1 uncertainty. You know, the bell cow status may be a little bit up in the air to begin with. So again, staying out of that bidding. The logic here is that, you know, the first couple of selections that you have, especially when you're being very, very aggressive, you know, they should be as safe as possible because we're probably going to spend 130 to 140 of our funds. You know, that's a very, very large percentage. 70%, in fact, of our starting budget on these players. And we're not going to have much wiggle room afterwards. So every single dollar counts here, folks. And that's why, you know, it's going to be a big deal to land guys that we know are going to be safer, guys that we know we're going to get production from consistently, and ultimately to try and avoid bidding wars here because that could be a little bit problematic. Again, every single dollar is going to count here because afterwards we're going to kind of have to wait it out and be in a situation where we go on a little bit of a lull in terms of participating in these bids and these nominations because if we get Ezekiel Elliott and then Alvin Kamara, just for example, I mean, you can say bye to landing guys like Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Kelsey, Eckler. You know, you can just scroll down and pretty much go down the list up until we get to the average, you know, projected dollar amounts of around $25, I would say. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Right now, it's our turn to make a nomination. So what I'm going to do here is, you know, it's still early on. I'm going to test out the waters with someone like a Derrick Henry to see where his value is. I want to get people spending, and I say this all the time for auction draft individuals, for, you know, any type of strategy they're using. Early on, when you're nominating someone, it's best to nominate someone that you're not necessarily interested in and have other people spend their funds. Now, Derrick Henry would fit the bill of, you know, a dominant top-end running back, but at the same time, this is half-point PPR scoring, so I want to go the route of an Ezekiel Elliott, a Dalvin Cook, and Alvin Kamara if I could. Derrick Henry just went for $70. So again, I'm all right passing up on him. At the end of the day, we're not going to be sitting out of this too much longer because, basically the next best three players are the guys that we're going to be targeting. So we'll see how it ends up. Now, with Jonathan Taylor, you see him being nominated. I think he is in the next tier, kind of below. So I'm not going to be selecting him. Wasn't really going to be bidding on him. He goes for $63. Right now, the way this is going, haven't really seen too many, overbids. Christian McCaffrey, you expect him to go a little bit more expensive. Now, you see some cutesy positional players being nominated here. I mean, the Bucks defense, Harrison Butker. So obviously, the people that are going after these guys have their guys in mind, and they just want to go get this kind of out of the way type of situation. But for us, it's going to be the long game here. We want to go in depth on this auction draft and really see the takeaways of this type of strategy, how it can go right, how it can go wrong, and just give you guys all the information that you could want, hopefully, because I say this all the time. As much as I probably endorse being aggressive in these auction drafts, if you're doing an auction draft for the first time ever, even for the second time, it can be a little bit tough to navigate the aggressive strategy because, it's the easiest thing in the world to come out hot and just spend a bunch of money on two top-end players. I mean, anybody can do that, but it's what you do afterwards that is going to separate you from someone that's an experienced auction drafter, a successful auction drafter, and somebody that just kind of, is going through the motions, because that's where you're going to, just having two running backs on your roster, that's not going to be able to carry your team. You're going to have to afterwards get a stable group of wide receivers, a stable group of, hopefully quarterback and tight end, a flex, even some bench spots. So right now we see Dalvin Cook nominated. Hopefully this doesn't go above $70. We'll see, but I have a feeling it's probably going to get to that mark. I'll go up to 68. I'm all right paying 68 for Dalvin Cook. Even that would be an overpay. You see somebody is up to that $69 amount. I bet that this gets up to $70. Right now, my hope is that we can get Ezekiel Elliott and Alvin Kamara. I anticipate for Alvin Kamara, we're probably going to have to overpay a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets up to that $69 amount as well. Ezekiel Elliott, though, I'm hoping we can get at a little bit of a discount. People right now still haven't quite come around to Ezekiel Elliott, even though I think he's probably underrated, undervalued right now on that Dallas offense with Dak returning healthy, with Zeke being a pretty good dual threat running back. So I'm all right with him being a top 5 running back, top 5 pick. Now, Alvin Kamara is the guy here. We got to land one of these guys. So we're going to be going hard in the paint at this point in time. And it's going to be, a back and forth bidding type of situation here. I absolutely anticipate that this will get up above the $63 amount. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe we should have gone after a Dalvin Cook, but this is all part of the process. It's all part of the learning situation, because every single one of these mock drafts, especially in the auction format, is going to take its own kind of course. It's so dependent on the type of individuals that you are drafting with, because every single one is going to value these players differently, and it's not going to guarantee that you're going to necessarily get a good deal on one of these players like you would in another auction draft. So again, it's so circumstantial that every single one, you have to get a pulse on it. And right now, we're pretty close to getting Alvin Kamara for $66. That is a win, folks. That is an absolute win. He's so far, I believe, let me do a quick check, but, Christian McCaffrey goes for 75. Barkley goes for 68. Henry for 70. Dalvin Cook for 69. That's a win. That is an absolute win for us. So I love the fact that we got Alvin Kamara for $66. Unfortunately, right now, Ezekiel Elliott, what an overpay here. up to $66, but we got to go get our guy. We got to go. We're going to go with our strategy. This is an absolute overpay. Unfortunately, it was a situation where, he was kind of upbid by the computers. And, maybe kudos to the individuals that we're drafting with. They realized that Ezekiel Elliott is undervalued. So we might end up being in a little bit of a bidding war. I don't like the way that this, transpired for Ezekiel Elliott. But again, going by our strategy, this is the way that we're going to approach it. I feel really bad about paying more for Ezekiel Elliott than we did for Alvin Kamara. But again, all things considered, Dalvin Cook went for 69, Derrick Henry 70, Christian McCaffrey 75. So more or less, all these guys are looked at in the same tier here, essentially, is what it's boiling down to. I would anticipate, the projected salary for Zeke, 55, 58.9, the average salary. So this is just a good example of Ezekiel Elliott being underpriced, people realizing that, and just a heads up, come August, come September, when you guys are doing these drafts for real, don't expect Ezekiel Elliott to be going for $59, $60. It'll probably be closer to the $65, $66 amount. But as I mentioned already, it's been probably about 5-10 minutes, and we've spent a good chunk of money. In fact, we spent $134. So more than that 70% of our funds, in fact. So, or right around it, not necessarily more, but so now we're playing the waiting game. This is where we have to buckle down, and you're going to see the indication over your budget for a lot of these next players. And from here on out, it's actually a simple approach for us. Here on out, we're just going to continue to nominate the most expensive players, because right now you look at our budgets, we don't have a lot of wiggle room, and compared to the other individuals, they pretty much all have more money than us, and that is a tough place to be in with these auction drafts. Now, again, if you're being aggressive, 99.9% of the time, this is the situation you will find yourself in. And here, all you have to do is kind of survive that initial first, second wave of these very expensive nominations and kind of be in, I would say, having the third most, fourth most, fifth most amount of money when it gets to that player pool that you're going to be targeting. And I continue to speak of that player pool. Let me kind of scroll down to some of those names that I think we're going to be nominating, or that we're going to be in on in terms of the bids. Guys like a Chris Carson, guys like a David Montgomery, Robert Woods, DJ Moore. So that's going to be our bread and butter. Forget about the Tyreek Hills, forget about the Calvin Ridleys of the world, the Austin Ecklers of the world. I love them, but we're not going to be able to get in to really get in on these bids, because right now, if you sort this by the max bid that we have at the moment, for us, it's $54. So if we spend $50 on Tyreek Hill, it's going to be even worse for us going later on. We're probably going to have to, build out our roster just by, free agents, something like that. And I will say right now, I want to point this out. Tyreek Hill went for $49. That is an absolute steal. Unfortunately, again, we can't really take advantage of that. If we were doing a normal auction draft here where we're just, going best value, we're kind of just taking it as it goes, I equate this to probably a balanced strategy where we go one first round selection, one second round selection, one third round selection. And if there's a really good value like Tyreek Hill went for, $49, that is exceptional value. In fact, that's the best value in this entire draft. Then you snag that player. But again, committing to an aggressive strategy early on doesn't allow you to really get top end value for those top tier players, because you just, again, you're not going to be able to navigate the draft later on, because right now we're already behind the 8-ball big time. If we would have gotten Tyreek Hill for $50, even though that have been a good value, well, it's going to be tough. It's going to be, I would say, almost impossible, even for a seasoned auction drafter. So just keep that in mind. I want to point that out as we go as much as I can. Now, maybe we could have, I will say, maybe we could have gotten on the Tyreek Hill bidding if we hadn't overpaid for Ezekiel Elliott by like $10. But again, overpay is such it's such a subjective word because it's all about what the platform shows. It's not ESPN, for example, could show a value that's $10 less, $10 more, but it's all about what that value is shown. But at the end of the day, if somebody is willing to pay more, then, is it really an overpay? Because all this is just kind of an indication of what the average value is. If somebody is willing to pay more than that, then that's what you have to contend with. So again, that's why Ezekiel Elliott, we kind of had to overpay for him and get him going by our strategy that we committed to. And here, just as reference, Stephon Diggs went for $56. Tyreek Hill went for $49. So again, showing you guys the extremely good value. Now, I will say Alvin Kamara, even though we paid $66 for him, I think that's a very good value, especially with the Michael Thomas news. And basically, that is that Michael Thomas is going to miss probably a month and a half, if not more, undergoing some surgery right now, pretty close to the start of the season. So Alvin Kamara is, by all intents and purposes, the number one pass catcher on this team. He's going to get peppered, and I mean peppered with targets regardless of who the quarterback is at this point in time. So in PPR formats, you could argue he jumps into that tier 1 running back list, and that's how I'm kind of viewing him. Basically the third, fourth best, running back right now. So I'm happy we got him for at least $66. Ezekiel Elliott paying $68 for him. That hurts a little bit. Now you're just seeing, some people nominate kickers, and I've got no problem with that. We're not going to go that deep into this thing where we're nominating kickers and defenses because, auction draft videos are pretty lengthy to begin with, but one where we go about it in an aggressive strategy, we're going to probably make it a little bit longer because it's going to take a while for these top end players to get nominated, to get selected. And so that's just a lengthy process. Afterwards, we're kind of going to be, picking at the scraps, if you will, but hopefully, again, they won't be scraps. It'll just take a while until we get to, again, the Chris Carsons, the Robert Woods, the Cooper Kupps of this thing and spending the majority of our funds. So right now, Davante Adams is being nominated, and I do want to touch on Davante Adams. Usually, he's a guy that's, extremely, extremely expensive, usually the most expensive wide receiver in these drafts. But obviously, with the recent rumors that Aaron Rodgers, is he going to retire? What's going to happen there? We don't really know. Well, his value has taken a hit, not only in auction drafts, I would say, but also in snake drafts, where now I'm rarely seeing him go as the first wide receiver in drafts. So usually it'll now be the third wide receiver at least, sometimes the fourth behind a guy like a Justin Jefferson. So right now that I'm seeing him go at $52, I'm actually pretty surprised by that. I think right now you could argue that's a bit of an overpay given that the status is up in the air. The Packers have, called off long-term extension talks with Davante Adams. Now, for what it's worth, I continue to say this. My money is still on the fact that Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams remain in Green Bay at least for 2021. We'll see if that's the case or not, but that's what I'm currently betting on at this point in time. Give it a week, give it 2 weeks, and we might be talking about something completely different. If Davante Adams is forced to play this season without Aaron Rodgers, is he still a wide receiver one? That's a tough question to answer. Now, I'll start off by saying this. He sure as hell isn't a tier 1 wide receiver anymore. He doesn't belong in the Tyreek Hill and the, Stephon Diggs class anymore because I'm definitely not as high on Jordan Love as I am Aaron Rodgers. He's probably a low-end wide receiver one to me because he's still going to get huge volume. And for wide receivers, that does matter. That's not necessarily as given of a badge of success as it would be at the running back position because there you still have to take into account like the offensive line. Is it a stable offensive line? Can the opposing teams just kind of line up the box against you? So to me, I think just massive volume is a little bit more important for a wide receiver than it is for a running back, especially if it's PPR. So his floor, Davante Adams, that is a little bit high. You see Aaron Jones went for $61. You've got the same concerns for him as you would for Davante Adams on the Packers. So I would say that's a little bit of an overpay. for Aaron Jones at this point in time, $61, even though he's been a top 5 running back these last 2 seasons. Keep that in mind. So probably being a little bit disrespected right now. Antonio Gibson, a guy that I really, really like, and I think could have a huge blow-up season. Going to go for right around $47, $48 would be my guess. We might even see a 50 burger here, but I would say, again, some great names here. Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson, A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley. We're not going to be able to draft these guys. We're only really going to be able to get in on these around the $30 mark, I would say. So right now, let's do a quick check on our budget and how we are looking. How many people still have the majority of their funds? So there's still 2 people that have $200. That makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not going to lie. 2 other individuals have a pretty high amount. There's someone with $198, someone with $168. So right now, basically what I'm hoping for is that those individuals are the ones that start spending up. Because if we get to the point where, we're in the Chris Carson tiers and there's still multiple individuals that have $200, we might be in a little bit of trouble, and those guys are going to dictate how this draft goes. Now, to be fair, if that's still the case, then I expect those individuals to have to overpay for those players that we just mentioned, because that's the other kind of downside. We're talking about the aggressive strategy. Well, that would, people still having $200 at that late point in the draft, that would err more towards a conservative strategy. And don't worry, we'll get into this in future auction drafts. But when you go conservative, it's obviously on the other spectrum of the aggressive strategy. The problem there is if there's multiple other individuals that have committed to that strategy, then you are almost certainly going to have to overpay for that player that you settle on, especially if it's obviously a player that multiple people want. And you're going to have to overpay by maybe $10, $15, because then you're desperate for that position. You're desperate for landing that running back. But guess what? So is somebody else. And you're kind of seeing that right now for Austin Eckler, even though I think he's one of the most undervalued running backs in all of fantasy football. His value has gone up to $57. Don't get me wrong, I'd be willing to pay that amount, but his projected salary was $48. Now, again, we probably did this similar type of overpay for Ezekiel Elliott, but it's going to happen here for Austin Eckler. And I guarantee you it's going to happen for these next couple of running backs, because the running back is the most important position. Don't think otherwise. Kyle Pitts is nominated right now. I was hoping that we could potentially sneak Kyle Pitts as one of our later round picks, and somehow Kyle Pitts is going to go for I can't even believe it, for $45. Right. So Kyle Pitts is a generational talent, and don't get me wrong, I think he's going to be an exceptional tight end in probably a couple of years, but $45 for a rookie tight end when they historically struggle, this is going to be the highest amount paid for a tight end other than Travis Kelce, and probably by a good amount. That's absolutely insane. Now, again, I have zero problems with that, because that just lowers the funds for these other individuals. But $45 for Kyle Pitts, that is a no-go. That is an F. That is just absolutely a huge overpay, one of the biggest overpays you're going to see in this entire draft. But okay, so be it. If somebody wants to just waste their money like that, I'm not going to stop them. That benefits us. That benefits our budget management. So I am not sweating that one bit. And just like that, we're closely becoming, in the upper echelon of money left, because you look at it, $46, $85, $36, $123, $20, $29, $89. So right now, how many individuals have more money than us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're kind of getting into that upper 50%, and that's what I was saying. That's where you want to be. A.J. Brown goes for $51. Again, a bit of an overpay. Let's see what happens with Justin Jefferson. What I'm really hoping for is that these guys right here, the $200, the $198, the $200, that they start spending up, because we need these guys to start wasting some of their money so that they're not dictating how this draft goes. Because, if one of these guys becomes the majority owner of the most amount of funds, then they are absolutely going to be able to dictate how this thing goes. And that's going to be a bad thing for us. Right now, I like to see that this value for Justin Jefferson is hitting that $45 amount. Hopefully we can get to 46, 47. I doubt it. But yeah, okay. So $45, $5 over that number. I'm all right with that. Again, that was one of those guys that had a lot of money left. So slowly but surely, those funds will start to bleed. And that is our best friend at this point in time. Honestly, I still can't get over the Kyle Pitts nomination because that's an absurd amount of money. I think even in the best case scenario, without Julio Jones, Kyle Pitts probably doesn't finish inside the top three, or maybe even the top four, because I'm looking at Darren Waller, George Kittle, if he plays an entire season, obviously Travis Kelce, and I'm a big TJ Hawkinson believer. So to me, a realistic expectation for Kyle Pitts is after TJ Hawkinson. I think that would be the best case scenario for him. So I think paying $45 is absolutely insane. $38 for Najee Harris. I was hoping for a little bit of an overpay there. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm just going to throw out George Kittle right now. Let's get the tight end market moving. He's somebody that I hope gets to that $30 amount. That'd be really good for us. Again, there we go. I like to see that. An auto bid for $38 and another player bidding $39 for him. That is perfect. That's exactly what I was hoping for. And it happens to be one of those players that, well, they had a lot of money. So again, they're quickly going to get under that $100 amount. And right now, yeah, let's continue the streak. Continue the streak of individuals being nominated for large amounts. DeAndre Hopkins is that next guy up to 45. And hopefully, again, we get up to 50, 46 right now. So, all of a sudden, these guys that had $200, there we go, $51. That is absolutely amazing. Again, it's an auto bid, so keep that in mind. But still, even with these auto bids, the computers, they're not going to overpay by a huge amount. So I think it's still not all that inaccurate. And it's going to happen in your own auction drafts. You're going to have somebody in every single auction draft. I don't care if you've been doing it just for 1 year, for 10 years, or for more. It's going to happen where somebody in your auction drafts just says, okay, look, here's a player. Here's a DeAndre Hopkins. I must have him. Like, he is my guy. And I'm all right overpaying $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 for him. Nobody else is going to get him. That happens all the time in auction drafts. So I don't mind the way that these auto bids are taking place. It's still relatively realistic. J.K. Dobbins now being nominated again. Hopefully we start seeing guys overpay for the top end running backs because, again, if you've waited on that position, it's going to be a situation where you're going to want to overpay, even though I will say $34 is probably going to end up being pretty cheap for J.K. Dobbins, up for $35. I was hoping to hit that $40 mark, $36. All right, so it's kind of edging its way up to that amount. At least we've gotten to the projected salary, so it's not an absolute, steal if it were, but $36, it is what it is. And right now, let's do another quick check on the funds, who has more money than us, and if that's kind of changed. Still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals that have more money than us. So we're kind of still sitting in the same spot, just more so than anything. Other individuals have spent more money, so they can't really get in on the bids, which isn't a bad thing either. So I'm just kind of waiting until everybody's under that $100 amount. That is the sweet spot. Here goes Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Here's a guy that I was interested in, and I anticipate that his bidding will get over that $35 amount because I think a lot of people are going to be in on him. And you can see that these two guys who have a lot of money, it seems like, are going back and forth on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So this is a good thing for us. I think it's going to absolutely get above $35. And the question is, by how much? So 37, there we go. I'm hoping we see a 38 here. Now, I would say 37 is still a really good deal for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I almost want to get in on Clyde Edwards-Helaire at $37, but it is what it is. I'm not seeing as many overpays right now as I was hoping for. I've been in a lot of these auction drafts where, again, each one takes a life of its own on, where it could absolutely just be you overpaying for guys, you getting good deals on guys, and that's just going to translate to, later on they're just either being very good value or later on you having to overpay for some players. And right now you see Darren Waller nominated, $22, $23. Again, good value, $24. And I mean, anything compared to the Kyle Pitts $45 is going to be it's going to be a good value for any tight end at this point in time. So I'm just still sitting it out. I mentioned guys like a TJ Hawkinson. Hopefully we can land him without having to pay, like $20. Darren Waller has gone up to $33, which I like to see that. I think that this is where right now he's extremely undervalued on Yahoo, by the way. I want to point that out. George Kittle, his projected salary, I believe, was $35. Darren Waller is almost like right now universally being treated as the number 2 tight end. That's how it should be. He has less, question marks around him than George Kittle. So him going for a similar amount to that, I think is accurate. So I would say, another prime example of a player being undervalued here, underpriced. You're going to see that a lot. You're going to see that with some of these tight ends. I want to point that out right now. Look, let's sort this out by tight end. TJ Hawkinson, now he could hit that $23 amount, but he could also, his average salary, $9.7. That's an absolute steal. So keep that in mind. DK Metcalf right now, if he goes for, if he stays in this range, I might honestly start bidding on him as well, because him going for $33 is an absolute steal. But again, I'm hoping one of these auto bids or something like that or just gets him up to at least the $40 amount where, we don't have to necessarily get in on it. So yeah, we're up to $42. And again, I would say that is above our price range. Anything really in the 40s, I would classify that way. If we can get in the low 30s again, it would have to be a top end player, then we're good. But right now, otherwise, we're still continuing to stay out of it. And again, right now, doing a quick check. I'm going to continue to do this because right now it becomes very, very important to see how you stack up against the competition. At least one of these guys has gone, who almost had $200, is down to that $79 amount. So a lot closer to what we're working with than, just a couple of minutes ago. So I like to see that. Terry McLaurin being nominated for $32. Probably that'll be right around the winning bid. I'm not as high on him considering I can get somebody like a Keenan Allen, probably for a similar type of value, somebody like a Julio Jones, somebody like a Robert Woods, a CeeDee Lamb, something like that. Mike Evans is somebody that I'm absolutely out on at his current value. I think $28 is a huge overpay. So, if this thing gets into the 30s, and I've said this before, even in our breakdown of our most overvalued wide receivers in our video of wide receivers that are most likely to bust, Mike Evans is probably like the poster child for that category, for a bunch of categories for 2021. The Bucs wide receivers, guys, there's just not enough mouths to feed. I get it. They're all extremely, extremely talented. I'm not denying that. Mike Evans had another 1,000-yard season. He dominated in terms of touchdowns, but touchdowns are the most variable category in fantasy football. So you can't bank on that. Antonio Brown is now going to be there for a full season. Chris Godwin, healthy. And when all those things were factors, none of these wide receivers were consistent on a week-to-week basis. So just keep that in mind. I hate drafting Mike Evans as anything, remotely close to a wide receiver 1. To me, he should be a low-end wide receiver 2. And I'm not backing off that stance. So next up, we've got Allen Robinson being nominated here. Hopefully, again, he reaches that $36 amount. And right now, again, we've still got one player at $200. I'm a little bit scared of that because there's still some really good value picks. Keenan Allen, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, TJ Hawkinson, Robert Woods. If that person decides to, just say, I'm landing these guys, like even all of them, they could absolutely do it. And right now, if that person is going for a conservative strategy, this is playing out perfectly for them. Or, who knows? It might be a situation where that player is just kind of gone missing away from this draft. And, they end up getting in on this a little bit too late where it's just, all the value is gone. I like to see this kind of bidding war right now for Allen Robinson. It looks like another individual is going to hit that under $66 amount, which is what we are currently at. And there you go, somebody else with under $66. We're working our way up, folks, I promise you. Again, other than that person with $200, there's only one other individual with over $100. That is what I like to see. And honestly, people with more money than us right now, it is 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 other individuals with more money than us. So we are sitting pretty at this point in time. This is kind of what I was hoping we would see as this draft progressed. Keenan Allen, again, now being nominated, somebody that I'm very intrigued in. I think he can absolutely be a wide receiver 1. I'll even throw $1 at him at $28. We'll see, maybe it's good enough to land him, even though, again, it's not going to be the case. But we're up to $30 for him. I think, I'd be perfectly fine paying that $36 amount for Keenan Allen. That's absolutely fine. So it seems like we've got 3 individuals kind of bidding on him at this point in time. So I anticipate we're going to hit the $36 amount. So more likely than not, we're going to be out on Keenan Allen. But again, there's still some really good wide receivers. Again, I continue to mention it. Julio Jones, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Deontay Johnson. So all guys with wide receiver 1 upside. So don't sweat this one at all. Keenan Allen up to $37. And hopefully that this individual ends up winning him, because we finally have the person with $200 seemingly getting involved. And this is what I was mentioning this entire time. That is the perfect utilization of a conservative strategy. Landing Keenan Allen for $38, you are dictating the way this draft goes. You've still got $162, way more than anybody else. Keenan Allen is a borderline wide receiver 1. In full point PPR scoring, he is a wide receiver 1. So that is just an A+, just get from the guy that had $200. So we're still in for a long day, folks. There goes David Montgomery. I feel like that he's probably going to hit around $30 because, already up to $28. Do I want to go in on him when I can go somebody like a Chris Carson? I personally prefer Chris Carson because I think he has less question marks than David Montgomery, who, think about it. Tariq Cohen is back. Damian Williams has been added. Matt Nagy resuming play calling duties. A much tougher run defense schedule for the Bears. So I'm out on David Montgomery compared to just Chris Carson, let's say. But again, it's our turn to make a nomination. So let's just, again, nominate somebody that's going to be pretty expensive. I'm going down the board of most expensive names. I'm probably going to avoid guys that I'm hoping for. But Miles Sanders, I want nothing to do with him. And hopefully this gets to the $30 amount. $28 right now kind of hurts me. It'd be a decent value for Miles Sanders. I'm hoping, again, it gets to close to that $36 amount. But personally, I've been on record saying I want nothing to do with Miles Sanders at this value because I'm scared of the Philadelphia running back room. I think it's one that's a little bit too crowded. I don't think Miles Sanders is going to get his volume. I think Jalen Hurts is going to take away from his rushing upside. So I'm out on Miles Sanders. And again, this is going to slowly creep up to hopefully $36. But even at this value, I'm all right with getting somebody to spend $30 at this point in the draft is a good thing. So this is a win for us. Hopefully we continue to see some of these other nominations. I'm really, really hoping, TJ Hawkinson isn't nominated too soon right now, because if he's nominated right now, basically any one of these guys with close to $100 could theoretically get him if they so chose to. Because again, at $66, we're getting close, but we're still at a point in time where, we can't quite get heavily involved in the bids. And CeeDee Lamb was a guy that I was really hoping could last a little bit longer, considering the pup status for Amari Cooper, and that if he could last longer, that he could go for around, $19, $20, at which point in time I would have absolutely jumped in on it. But instead he goes for $27. He's nominated right now. And this is something that I say pretty often, if there's a guy, a sleeper, if you will, that you really want and you're pretty good at, managing your funds, it's better for them to be nominated later on because the odds are you're going to be in the upper tier of most amount of money at that point in time. So all things considered, you can probably get them at a good value. There's a higher percent chance of doing that compared to nominating them earlier on when people still have a decent amount of money left. So, higher percent chance of a bidding war. So that's just auction drafts 101. And don't worry, we're going to have another auction draft advice video coming out this season. We try and do that for every single year and just, kind of recompile the most useful things you can do in an auction draft because I think it's a format of drafting that's kind of unlike any other, and it's all about the strategy. It's all about how you prepare. So again, I want to arm you guys with that knowledge because it could absolutely be the difference between you winning your draft versus you not doing as well as you would have hoped for. So again, keep that in mind. We're going to see some quarterbacks now, and I like to see it. Russell Wilson, $18. So all things considered, maybe a little bit of an overpay. And again, checking in on the draft situation, we are now officially in third place with the amount of money that we have. There's only, again, look at it here, two other individuals with more money than us. So this is a good spot to be in, and let's see who the next nomination will be. So it's Chris Godwin. Again, not really all that interested in Chris Godwin. Everything that I said about Mike Evans holds just as true for Chris Godwin. The only wide receiver that I want in Tampa Bay is Antonio Brown. I think he is just on the same level as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But if we scroll down all the way for Antonio Brown, I believe his value is $1, which is absolutely bananas. That is absolutely insane. The fact that I continue still to have to scroll down. Yeah, you see that $1, 1.5. That's insane. That shouldn't be the case. And I'm going to get him every single time at that value. Chris Carson right now going for $26. I want to see if this gets any higher because I'd definitely be interested in Chris Carson at that value. But again, I'm not too desperate for it because, we've got Alvin Kamara and Ezekiel Elliott. So, yeah. And it's up to $32. So it looks like we won't be able to get a very good value on Chris Carson. And again, I point this guy out, man. The guy that was at $200 for like forever, and he's landing just a bunch of my guys. Keenan Allen, Chris Carson, he dictated how that drafting went. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. If you want an example of a conservative strategy of it paying off for just you dictating the way the bidding is going and then you getting good value on high-end, high-upside players, this is a perfect way to do so. Now, again, when we get to the wide receiver 2 and the running back 2 situations, that individual might struggle a little bit, but for now, they're doing a great job, so kudos to them. DeAndre Swift being nominated. DeAndre Swift for $26, that's a good deal, folks. Let's see if we can, I was going to say if we can get in an extra dollar in there, but $26 for DeAndre Swift, that's a very, very good value. So again, kudos to the player that's able to land them at $26. Robert Woods is somebody that's interesting. I think right now probably we won't be able to get them at the value that we are hoping for. So let's see what happens. Basically if this guy at $128 decides to say Robert Woods is mine, then we're going to concede Robert Woods is theirs. That's all I'm trying to say at this point in time. But we'll see. I'm perfectly fine paying up $20 for Robert Woods. So we'll see. Again, we'll see how high this value goes. But right now, there we go. You see an auto bid for $22. So I think we can get Cooper Kupp for a similar amount of value, for a similar dollar amount. So I'm going to stay out on Robert Woods here. I think that's a strategic move, and I think it'll pay off. I really do. Cooper Kupp is I don't think he goes for more than $26. Usually you kind of take a gamble on one of these guys, especially in an auction draft, because one of them might go for like $5 less. It's always the question of which one. So hopefully right now it'll be Cooper Kupp. Darrell Henderson now being nominated. He's very intriguing. You see an auto bid of $26. Obviously with Cam Akers out for the season, Darrell Henderson is the presumed, RB1. I'm not, quite on the same level as saying he's 100% going to be Cam Akers 2.0, because I do think there's a pretty high likelihood that the Rams could add somebody else. And if that happens, he obviously takes a hit. In snake drafts, I would say he's probably going around, the highest, the end of the third round, but I think a more accurate representation of his ADP is probably going to be right around the fourth, fifth round. So right now, I'm still kind of just waiting to see what happens over there with the Rams. But he could absolutely be a great steal, a great value for $27. Right now, Josh Allen being nominated for 25. Hopefully, he goes for a little bit higher. But if not, I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm looking guys like Lamar Jackson, guys like a Kyler Murray that'll probably be cheaper than a Josh Allen, be cheaper than a Aaron Rodgers. And speaking of Lamar Jackson, there you go. So just because he was nominated literally right after we mentioned him, I'm guessing he's not gonna, again, I've been able to get Lamar Jackson for like $11 before, so just keep that in mind. And I will point this out right now very quickly. I believe the last auction draft that we did was on Yahoo, or on ESPN, I should say rather. And their quarterbacks are absolutely extremely undervalued compared to what you see here on Yahoo, because there, I believe, like Patrick Mahomes was valued for like $15 or like $20, something like that. And $20 might even be a little bit too high, because here, I believe Patrick Mahomes went for like almost $40, and that's a huge difference. This is something that I say every single season. Knowing the difference from platform to platform for auction drafts, that is absolutely instrumental. That's key. That's so important. And just knowing the fact that you're going to be able to, put together a completely different roster from platform to platform. The budget management is going to be completely different. That's something that's just very, very important. So right now I nominated Melvin Gordon. I didn't want to necessarily nominate somebody kind of close to TJ Hawkinson here, because that would eliminate, some buffer between when Hawkinson is nominated. I nominate Melvin Gordon. I want zero to do with him, and somebody gets him for $17. So again, not the end of the world. But right now, I believe we can officially say we are in second place with the amount of money that we have. The individual that had $200 is now down to 101. So hopefully, unless that individual really wants every single player that we have marked on the rest of our list, we'll be able to put together a good squad, and we'll have a pretty strong finish to this draft. There we go. There's one of these guys, Cooper Kupp, that I'm really hoping I can get in on and that I can pay a reasonable amount for, because again, just as a reference, Robert Woods went for $26. So I'm hoping we can get Cooper Kupp for like $20. That would be an absolute win, even though it seems like some of these guys are going back and forth with it. But I'll absolutely pay $20 for Cooper Kupp. I have zero problem with that. So let's get in on it. Let's see how high we go, because we've got more money than the two guys that are bidding on him. And this is the importance of what I was saying. Like at this point in time, if we say we're going to get Cooper Kupp, like we're getting Cooper Kupp. And again, I'm hope that it doesn't go up to $19, and we get lucky, folks. We get Cooper Kupp $18. That is an absolute steal. That is the perfect way to do this thing with the aggressive strategy. Just kind of wait for your opportunity, because again, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, in snake drafts, people are kind of coming around to it. They're being drafted one right after the other for the most part, and if that's not the case, that's an absolute travesty, by the way. But Cooper Kupp, we got him for $18. Robert Woods went for $26. I mean, the guys, even last season, other than the touchdowns, their stats were almost identical. So Cooper Kupp at $18, absolute steal. Now we can mark up some other wide receivers with like high-end with low-end, I'll say wide receiver one upside. Guys like a Deontay Johnson that I mentioned before, maybe like even a Tyler Lockett. DJ Moore, I'm not quite as bullish on this season, especially with Christian McCaffrey returning, with Marshall being added. I'm not a Sam Darnold believer. That probably has something to do with it as well. But if this is a good value, I mean, I will get in on DJ Moore. I also do like Jamar Chase, and right now DJ Moore for $10, that's actually a pretty good value. So I mean, value is value at the end of the day. That's my point here. And I think $11 for DJ Moore is a good value. I mean, hell, even $13 is still, but I'm curious to see where we can get some of these other guys. So I'm gonna let DJ Moore slide for $12. That's an absolute steal for the individual that got him at $12. Kudos to them. I just wasn't invested enough. I want to try and see if I can get like Kyler Murray, to see if I can get TJ Hawkinson, because I would feel really good if we get Kyler Murray and TJ Hawkinson paired up with Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott. That is a tremendous start, because you could argue we have 4 players. We have a quarterback, 2 RBs, and a tight end that can all finish as at their respective, positional ranking number 1. That is absolutely awesome. Right now, Josh Jacobs is being nominated. I want zero to do with him. That offensive line takes a hit. Kenyon Drake is being added, so no thank you to Josh Jacobs. He's probably going to go at a tremendous steal right now. If he might absolutely go for under $10, but again, I don't want anything to do with him. I'd much rather have Myles Gaskin or Mike Davis or like even Damian Harris compared to the value or compared to the expectation for Josh Jacobs. But yeah, he goes for $10. That's an absolute steal. Credit to the person that was able to get him. I'm not in on Josh Jacobs. If we were, we could have gotten him at a great value. There goes TJ Hawkinson. This is our guy. This is the guy that we are hoping we can get at a steal. I'm not sure if we'll be able to do so. I'm just kind of waiting to see if that individual at $100 decides that they want TJ Hawkinson, because if they do, we're not getting them. But so we'll bid $11, and right now this is the beauty of it. Compared to everybody other than the person with $100, we dictate the way this thing goes, and we just got TJ Hawkinson for $11. That's an absolute steal. That's absolutely amazing. This is what I was saying before. This is why I wanted to wait longer to nominate one of the players that we're very high on, compared to like nominating a George Kittle early on, nominating a Kyle Pitts early on. I mean, if you guys remember, Kyle Pitts went for, I believe, $45. So that's all you really need to know. And right now, just looking at our max amount of dollars that we can still spend, Myles Gaskin at $8 is a pretty good value, folks. You could argue he's like the unquestioned RB1 in Miami. When he was healthy, he was getting a lot of opportunities last season. I think that's a pretty good value right now for $9. We've still got a decent amount of money, so let's throw in $9 on him. He can be like our flex play. Got just a bunch of running back depth, which is always a good thing. So there we go. We land Myles Gaskin as well. And just again, check it. I like to quickly do like a check on the max amount of money that we can bid, because right now we did go on a little bit of a spree in terms of spending. So it's always nice to keep an eye out on that, because right now we went from the second most amount of money to not quite being in that neighborhood anymore, because right now there are 2 individuals that still have more money than us. Tyler Lockett, $11 right now. He'd be a very good deal in my opinion, but I'm all right waiting. He's also like kind of an up and down wide receiver, so I'll let him go for $10. I'm looking at, again, Deontay Johnson. I continue to say that name. We don't have to worry about the running back position anymore. The next couple of guys that I'm kind of focused in on are Kyler Murray. I'm hoping we can get him at a good value, Deontay Johnson, and probably since it's gotten pretty late up until this point, I'll just go ahead and nominate Antonio Brown. I think I can absolutely get him for like $2, $3, and then we'll be all right there too. So kind of getting depth at that position, and we'll be ready to kind of wrap this thing up, because we're going to get into a position where everybody has like $10 left, and it's kind of a done deal. There's nominations of defenses and kickers. Nobody wants to see that. But for what it's worth, I think we've done a pretty good job up until this point. We've got $28, done a good job of maximizing our budget, which is always so important, and one of the most important things you can do. Adam Thielen being nominated right now, I think he'll probably end up going for like right around $10 as well. But I'm a little bit kind of bearish on him, because I'm worried about the touchdown regression. If the touchdown regression comes, which, look at it. He had 14 touchdowns last season, but less than 1,000 yards. If that happens again, then it's probably going to be an outside of the top 25 wide receiver finish, and that worries me a little bit. That's a run-first team with Dalvin Cook, so I'm all right passing on Adam Thielen. Again, I'd go with the Deontay Johnson, who, yes, he has like bust concerns, bust potential. You could argue a low floor, but huge upside. So here's Kyler Murray, a guy that we were looking at. Hopefully we can get him. Hopefully we don't get in a bidding war with anybody else. To me, he is by far and away the best available quarterback up until this point. For God's sakes, I have him as my quarterback number 2, and it's not by that much behind Patrick Mahomes. So getting Kyler Murray at this point in time, hopefully for $10, is an absolute steal. And right now, this is playing out in, I would say, just an incredible way for us. If this is my actual auction draft come August, come September, I would be very, very happy. We've gotten our stud quarterback, our 2 stud running backs, a stud tight end. Cooper Kupp we got at a great value. Myles Gaskin we got at a great value, and we've still got $18 to work with. I think right now pretty much everybody left is going to be going out for around like $10, something like that max. But again, it's our turn to nominate somebody, so I'm gonna nominate here Antonio Brown, and hopefully we can get him at that $1-2 amount. That's what I'm hoping for. If not, we can wait for somebody else, but I'll nominate him here for $1, and hopefully we can get him. I'm all right paying $3 for him as well. So for what that's worth, and yeah, there you go. There's somebody that bids $2 on him, so we'll probably end up paying $3 for Antonio Brown. That's still an absolute steal. The guy is a wide receiver too, so I mean, you shouldn't be worried about paying $3 for Antonio Brown. Yes, I understand we only have $18, but it's still a good value at this point in time. I mean, his value should be closer to between, I'll say, $10 and $20. So us getting him there. Now, yes, you're going to see him just inserted into our starting lineup, but we're going to be getting another wide receiver, so don't worry. He's essentially going to be a bench piece for us. And again, we're getting close to kind of wrapping this thing up. I want to get Deontay Johnson. I want to get, hopefully, Michael Thomas is somebody that's injured. The question is, how long is he going to be out for? He could be a good stash piece for a run to the playoffs, for the playoffs themselves. So that's just something to point out. Now, probably I'll end up going in on somebody like a Jamar Chase instead, because I'm very high on him too. But and obviously he's going to play the entire season. He's got that connection with Joe Burrow. So I'd rather just do that. Brendan Ayuk now is being nominated already, more than our budget. And here you can see what our max amount of money that we have left to spend is, $8. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So maybe we actually won't be able to get Deontay Johnson, but if we play this right, we'll still be able to get a difference maker at the wide receiver position, a difference maker maybe even at the running back position, like a Mike Davis, as a stash piece, as even more depth for our running back group. But let's quickly start kind of analyzing our roster, position by position. There goes Deontay Johnson, by the way. Let's see if we can, get cute with it here and get him for under $8. If we do, folks, I would go as far as saying that this is, an A type of roster. Again, that's just me. But, I think I really like the upside for Deontay Johnson. You saw it last season. He's going to be the wide receiver 1 for this team. And boy, oh boy, do we get him for $5. That is a huge win for us. And we're down to $10. So pretty much right now, we've gotten to the point where, our roster is more or less complete. There's really not that much further point of continuing to do this, because our max bid right now is going to be right around $4. So even if we decide on a player that we really like, if it gets over $4, then we're just gonna have to look at them and wave goodbye. But again, let's kind of wrap this thing up, give you guys a final grade on some of these players. Kyler Murray, we got him at $10. That's an absolute steal. That is an A-plus pick, honestly. Kareem Hunt right now, I'm kind of just keeping an eye out on. If we can get him for $2, you better believe I'm just going to bid $2 to get even more depth there. The guy, if something happens to Nick Chubb, is a league winner. And okay, it goes up to $5. I don't really care. But like I was saying, Kyler Murray, that's an absolute great pick. Cooper Kupp is our wide receiver 1. Yes. Now, I will say this was to be expected. When you go running back heavy like we did and be ultra aggressive, there's going to be, a little bit of a downgrade at another position. Here it was wide receiver, but I think us still being able to get Cooper Kupp and Deontay Johnson is a really great duo. Also getting Antonio Brown as well. I think worst case, all these guys are like mid-level to high-end wide receiver 2, so I'm very, very happy about that. I mean, our running backs, what can we say? We hit that out of the park. We also got Myles Gaskin for $9. I would say that's an A performance for us there. TJ Hawkinson at $11. The guy's basically a wide receiver. This is a PPR type of scoring format. He's going to get a bunch of targets. I love that pick as well. Right now, I won't give us an A grade. I'll say A minus just because, again, our wide receivers, we don't necessarily have that stud, bona fide, no doubt about it, wide receiver one. So for that reason, I'll go between a B plus, A minus type of grade. But hey, let me know your thoughts on the situation. What did you like? What did you not like? Any questions on the aggressive strategy? Any auction draft questions, period. This, again, is the place to ask them. So let me hear all those questions. I will do my best to answer them. And as always, if you guys enjoyed, just ask you to hit that subscribe button as well. And lastly, check us out online at alldaypigskin.com. While you're there, get yourself a copy of the 2021 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Everything you could want at a great value. From top 150 overall player rankings in standard and PPR formats to individual player bios, tiers, projections, to general fantasy advice, all there. Details in the description. But with that being said, we'll see you guys in future videos.